Nigeria is 61, and that's the age where countries begin to show better purpose, better intention, and of course enjoy better days. Nigeria isn't working, Nigerians say. It can work, they believe. But again, instead of having a ball of celebration, Nigerians still believe that this is time for it to have deep introspection and ask questions of how much they want the country to work. In every home and every place, communities where you find Nigerians, the talk about how to push Nigeria forward and see how it can be on the pedestal of great nations are getting louder. Welcome to VSA's special edition on Nigeria's 61st independence anniversary. I'm Sulaiman. Welcome. Well, whatever it is worth, Nigerians have been talking about that big speech by President Muhammadu Buhari. First, the social media ban or on ban being lifted, talking about Twitter, and that also big conversation of whether or not the administration has done more than any administration in the history of the country. But again, VSA is coming to you live on location today somewhere in Nigeria's economic capital. And I'm being joined by great Nigerians on this fantastic day. Joining me is Austyn Ogannah, who is the publisher of the Wheel newspapers. Good to see you and happy independence, Austyn. And of course, Kenny Okolugbo, who is a former commissioner of Delta State and a member of the People's Democratic Party. Good to have you and thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
And of course, a friend of the house who's always helped to look at deep issues here in the country, Liborous Oshoma. He's a legal practitioner. Many thanks for finding time to be here.
My pleasure. And,
so, gentlemen,
great opportunity meeting Kempi again.
It's my pleasure, Liborous.
So we're out of the studio, more informal. Whether we'll be celebrating at the end of the day is another thing. But again, 61 years of independence. Let me start with Liborous. Is there anything worth celebrating?
Yes, there are quite a lot worth celebrating. I won't say that there is nothing worth celebrating. The resilience of Nigerians, the doggedness, Nigerians, yes, they never say never. You see, we create jokes out of every situation in Nigeria. We try to make ourselves happy. And then a few here and there from government. You see, this morning we're talking about the railways that you can give to this government. You can say Goodluck Jonathan started them, but if they had abandoned them, we would have been seeing them. But, you know, in some people's lifetime, they've never rode on a train before, but today, you know, so you can give that to them. But apart from that, it's been cries. And then I agree with President Buhari that no government has done what he has done, what this government had done. No government in Nigeria had done what they have done. So he will look at it from the positive, but I'm looking at it from the negative. Because from where Nigeria was...
Because I can see the cheeky smile on your face. Because
you know,
you're trying to put down the operative words done.
No government has done what they have done. Because where Nigeria was when they met it and where Nigeria is now in the history of this country, I don't think any government, and then they still sit down and boastfully tell everybody that all is well. No government has been that bold. So I'll give it to them that they've been so bold in negativity and they've been so deceptive, you know. And then another thing, good thing for them is that you still have a lot of Nigerians tolerating them. So that's kudos. These are things to celebrate.
Let me go to Ken, a member of the opposition and one who's always been objective in his analysis. So can you also tell us if it's, because he said something that Nigerians are worthy of being celebrated today for their doggedness, for their patience and resilience. Tell us your own views about call for celebration or no celebration as Nigeria marks its 61st.
I don't actually think that we have ever had an independence celebration that the president, first of all, he faced realities, and again, he went into a world of on reality, if there's anything like that. Because I listened to that speech. I didn't listen to it at 7 a.m. I watched it on YouTube. And I took my time to analyze every aspect of that speech. First, he refused to address the issue of insecurity, which is the biggest problem we're having. He didn't talk about the headsmen. He didn't talk about banditry. He only talked about the 8,000 Boko Haram, repentant Boko Harams who have surrendered. He couldn't even talk about the fact that people have been yearning that the bandits should be actually labeled as terrorists, which would actually attract the global attention that will want to actually help us tackle this issue of what the bandits, the headsmen have done in our forests, in our bushes. I'll give an example. Just a few days ago, when I was my special assistant, when I was a commissioner, was just released by Fulani headsmen who kidnapped them along the Agbo-Bini Road with a colleague of his who is a lawyer. And it goes on and on, except you're actually touched. That is when you understand how bad it is, where you look at the way these people have taken over our forest and the attitude of land grabbing. And, you know, he talked about agriculture because there's a correlation here. He said people are hoarding food and he wants us to open the national reserves. He doesn't want to face the fact that his agricultural program, which is supposed to be diversification from our mono economy, has failed. Why would I say this? His anchor borrowers program on the 13 pilot states, Kebbi that was only succeeding, almost have set up a committee to recover the loans. The CBN governor knows fully well that those loans cannot be recovered. In Kaduna, only 50% have paid. In Kano, 80% have not paid. The anchor borrowers program, which has gone into about 2 trillion now from the initial 544 billion that it disbursed, it's
that's on agriculture.
That's on agriculture.
I'll come back to you because it will seem as if maybe...
I just wanted to take each of those aspects
we'll come back to ask if the
yes.
president doesn't know that has failed, because don't keep in mind, just before independence, he sacked his agricultural minister. Perhaps maybe that's a big reason why he eased him off. Is it about the geographical make of Nigeria? How come? I don't know if it also worries you that when these same Nigerians leave the shores of Nigeria, they excel. They do great things. And he's talking about treasures in these people. So are there things holding, development of an average Nigeria in Nigeria?
Yeah, it's about rules and regulation, compliance, irrespective of position, tongue or tribe. And that is why a lot of people, if you remember in 2015, the campaign slogan of Buhari was always, a disciplined man, he's not corrupt, was going to come and whip everybody into line. Nigerians need that person who will lead by example. And so if you can use, yours as example, every other person will comply. And that's why in these countries where Nigerians go to, there is no abexa. The policeman will control you, you commit an offense, he gives you a ticket and he walks away. Abexa. But here, there is abexa. Oh, because of God. And then you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. And then you begin to make phone calls. Who sent you to that place? Take, the insecurity that we're fighting for example. Then talked about the president's speech today. We've been begging government names of the sponsors. The young men that kidnapped the Baptist high school students in Kaduna were arrested. Of the millions of naira that they collected as ransom, they said they got only 100,000 naira. So that means there's somebody who is pulling the string. If government were ready to this ragtag miscreants are not the problem. It is the backers behind them. So that's the difference in those other places. So when you enter these places in Dubai, they were not scared. They were not ashamed to name the people. They even said one of them was somebody in government, and they gave us his name. They prosecuted them. But here, when he got here, it took 2 years after the Court of Appeal has confirmed the guilt in Dubai before our Attorney General suddenly woke up. So that's the difference. And then I also do not agree with that we are just 61 years. 65 years is the age of retirement. The civil service is the age of retirement. So Nigeria is nearing retirement. So if you are, when we were 30, we said we are just 30. 50, we said we are just 50. Don't compare with America, that is 200 plus. But look at, go back in history, look at these countries where they were 50 and how they were able to tackle the challenges that they had, and also against the backdrop that they didn't have a role model of that we have now, the kind of model that we have in these other countries. So we don't take advantage of the opportunities that we have. And so for me, it is consistently making excuses for failure, and it will not move us anywhere. It is high time all of us begin to say, look, this country belongs to all of us, and we can either decide to look at these people like P, the politicians, face to face and say, look, come rain, come shine, slug it out.
Well,
or we just give up and relocate to diaspora. Like the numbers are swelling everything.
I think before we end this show, I'll be asking him why he decides to call him Ken P. It's an informal setting today because I know him as Ken Okolugbo, but this Ken P that has gotten into this conversation. But quickly now, do you think Nigeria needs a kind of rebranding in our fares, stars, and methods to attract, investment? We're talking about the geographical make. You also said something about the Anchor Borrowers program.
Yes.
A system whereby by now everyone should commend the government, but
because we're having lake rise, Lagos and Kebbi were combining, well, that has crashed.
So that's a combination of a combination that's the coming together of two states in Nigeria.
And it was beautiful because Kebbi was producing, Lagos was marketing, and so the lake rise was selling. What I find a bit worrisome here is, if we say we don't want to have a mono economy, we don't want to depend only on oil, and that is one thing Buhari has always, harped on. Especially, he talks about the agricultural sector and the mining sector. We had the e-wallet program, for example, which the farmers are still craving for. That was done under Adesina when he was the Minister of Agriculture. People get alerts on their phone, just on their phones, they get alerts, and they go and collect their fertilizer, which is what the farmers need to be able to produce. 1.2 million farmers were actually benefiting from that program. And you see what impact it had on the economy, and that was why he was winning all the awards he was winning. But when this government came, they stopped the e-wallet program and went on the Anchor Borrowers program, which has failed. My worry here is not that because I want to criticize for criticism's sake. How do you rebrand the country that has refused to accept measures that have worked and are going for measures that are not working? Okay, look at the Empower, for example. He said he wants to increase the Empower to 1 million. We all know that the first Empower, it was epileptic before we got up to 500,000. This new 510,000 he's talking about, they are not receiving their salaries. If they are telling the president that they are receiving their salaries, all of them are not receiving their salaries. Look at the laudable program he had, where he had 1,000 people per local government. 774,000 people were to be employed for 3 months at 20,000 naira. Putting wallets in the pockets of people, that's how you reflect an economy. We're dealing with an economy that the misery index is at the highest because our unemployment rate is 33%. Inflation is almost at 18%. And a combination of that two is the highest misery index we have ever had in the history of this country. Now, if you put money in the pockets of people, you actually try to reflect that economy. That 20,000 naira you're going to give to 1,000 people in 774,000, or in 774 local governments, amounting to 774,000, would have been a laudable program. But they filled it with very, like he said, the politicians, whether you like it or not, took up all those programs, gave it to those who were their cronies, and those who were not their cronies, most didn't get their alerts. And the program, as far as I'm concerned, failed because it did not reach its 774,000 target. It's just the same thing as the school feeding program. The president said it's taking place in 35 states. I hope he doesn't even believe himself to actually agree that the home school feeding program is taking place in 35 states. It's not taking place in 35 states. It has been confirmed that it's still about 20 to 21 states. And the 20 to 21 states has been epileptic.
I'll come to you.
That's my problem.
I'll come to you because Ken also served under a government then in Delta State. Because you said something about mono economy, and I recall then when while you served,
yes,
your government created a platform more like a conversation. Delta
Beyond oil. Yes, that's true.
So we'll come back and ask you, the kind of template, the intention, if that is something that this government should have actually, latched onto. Austyn, you smiled when Liborous said that, look, Nigeria is almost nearing retirement because the retirement age in Nigeria is 65. It might sound logical or illogical, but I still haven't been able to put my fingers on why Nigerians. I mean, you know a whole lot about Nigerians living in diaspora. Why do Nigerians succeed? Make it in a very big way when they leave the shores. Even especially when those are struggling Nigerians, the moment they step out. Liborous tried to also talk about the laws. As a lawyer, he's telling you, how we've been able to circumvent, call it corruption. But are there other things other than what Liborous has tried to, highlight?
I like to clear this notion that every Nigerian
That's
okay.
It's really hard work. The difference is that if you are poor and you're willing to work hard, you succeed. Unlike in Nigeria, where you're willing to work hard, when you succeed, you can't. So
Now you get in the picture now. I'm happy you realize what you're saying. So it's the same man, the same man who works hard in Nigeria.
And doesn't succeed. He goes out, he works hard.
Let's use the word they say, how they say it on the street.
It's an economy that works.
Didn't make it.
Yes.
But the same hardworking Nigerian goes out and he puts in just a little bit of effort. And he's
It's
out
orientation.
and the systems as well.
The system.
there. Okay, good.
Yeah, the systems are different. Our market is not very deep. The jobs are limited here. The opportunities are very limited. You have clowns making your policies and all sorts of negativities working against you. But when you go abroad, if you're someone that's hardworking, you would always succeed. You get into the right field, invent something and do something that's right and succeed. So that's the difference. But going back to what he said about people retiring at 61.
65.
65.
65. Nigeria is 61. Now, for me, when I started my conversation, I said something about, always being poor, right? It doesn't matter. There's a saying where I come from. It translates thoughts.
I like your positivity.
It doesn't matter when you start. It doesn't matter when you wake up. What matters is, I'm getting it all mixed up. What I'm just trying to say is that it doesn't matter when you start. It doesn't matter when you wake up. When you wake up is your morning. So Nigeria wakes up at 60, 61, right? That is our
It's never too late. That's what
it's never too late. So that's why they stay positive. And the truth is, life throws you all sorts of challenges, all sorts of situations. It may be perfect for Ghana, may be horrible for you, but look, life is a very long journey. A country that's probably doing well, maybe, I don't know, let's use South Africa for an example. South Africa until a few years back was doing super well along all thresholds. But South Africa today, is badly damaged in terms of psyche because of the level of crime and all the nonsense going on there today. But I still believe that Nigeria, if we decide to start doing what is right, I believe that Nigeria can get it right in 10 years.
If we decide to start doing what is right,
decide.
when we decide. That's a good point for us to go on another break. When we come back, we'll talk about key solutions, but first I want every gentleman here to give us a reaction on what each one has said before we start talking about solutions here on Nigeria's 61st independence. We'll be back. that ban as something that should have come in the first place?
Yeah, before I even go into that, let me, quickly respond to what my brother Austyn said about, keeping hope alive and countries, made examples in South Africa. A country can be great today, and in Nigeria, we're not talking about natural disasters. We're not talking about global pandemic. We're talking about bad leadership. If you add natural disasters to it, we won't be here. So it's as if God blessed us with this fantastic country, wonderful climate, rich land, but cursed us with bad leaders, and then made the rest of us docile. And so that's why I don't excuse and I don't compare with, oh yes, let's keep hope alive. The only way we can keep hope alive is for us to consistently remind ourselves that we have the worst of us leading the best of us. And the earlier we remove those worst of us, or we question them consistently, or remind them of the social contract that we signed with them, the better for us. And that's why, that now brings me to the president's speech. And then, I wonder how the president, just like Morrison, who conducted the worst election in the history of Nigeria, would look at himself and say, Americans should come and learn how to conduct elections from us. That's the same thing President Buhari is doing. And mind you, do you know that I still remember some of the fantastic and beautiful criticism of Alhaji Lai Mohammed while he was in opposition. Everything he criticized, they have done and even done worse. And so you now look at, is it agriculture, is it health, that even the president's wife admitted that there's no Panadol in Aso Rock Clinic. That has not changed. That even the president who campaigned that in his time as president, he will not allow his members, ministers to visit, to go for medical tourism. He is the proponent of medical tourism. He goes at random and no questions asked. At a point, we had our presidential jet stationed in London for 100 days. And no question asked. Are we talking about the judiciary? Are we talking about schools that even in some states today, schools are shut down? The children, you begin to wonder. People, they just finished West African Examination Council now. You wonder how some of these children will be able to write this exam and compete with their counterparts in other parts of the world. We're not even talking about infrastructure that is so much talked about. We're talking about insecurity now. Yet you say, with this few pushback, and yet with the pushback, you still hear that villages are ransacked. Even Army Barrack, even a defense academy was invaded by, and to the extent that our Air Force jets are being shot down by people we call bandits. They say we shouldn't call them terrorists. In between states, we're not talking about borders, in between states, between Zamfara and Kaduna and Kano. So when you have all of this and the president still come out to tell you that, oh yes, we have done so well, it's just that Nigerians are not seeing. Are we all blind? Even in the president's state, the president was holidaying in his village in Daura, just 15 minutes drive from his village. School children were kidnapped. That means they are even daring him. And nothing happened. We're talking about amnesty. Some people that have given they've repented. We remember that some persons repented in Katsina, and at the end of the day, they were arrested recently because they went back to banditry. In Benue State, it was the same thing. So, and yet, a president still comes to tell me about some people who have repented. So, when you look at all of this...
Sorry, you said the worst of us.
Yes, ruling the best of us.
Quickly here, this brings us to leadership recruitment process. How did they emerge? If we can take that quickly before I bring in Ken, who is also a politician.
That's why I said the rest of us are docile. And then you know what they tell us? They tell you, don't vote because your vote won't count. And I've monitored election, I've handled election petitions, pre-election matters, and I know where the tricks are. Now, despite the provisions of the Constitution that empowers INEC to conduct election, to use any means possible, the National Assembly is debating whether INEC should use electronic transmission or not. The National Assembly sought the assistance of the INEC sought the assistance of National Assembly when they use electronic transmission in those states, on those states, and so all the rest of us are debating it. INEC has the power. They don't even need all of this debate. And then the rest of us, they tell you, don't vote. Your vote won't count. And that's how we now find ourselves with the worst of us. Because, let me round up quickly. If you have a polling unit or a local government where you're a state, you have 1 million registered voters. Go check actual voters on the day of election. The highest you can get is 300,000 actual voters. And then, once you have 300,000 actual voters, you have 700,000 unused ballot papers that can be thumb-printed. Ken is here, he will tell you further. That can be thumb-printed, even by somebody who scored 20. And then at the end of the day, they bring those votes as actual votes.
You're a politician, and he said something about those politicians like yourself ruling the country are a bunch of those who shouldn't be there in the first place. He used the word, he qualified them, that the worst are in positions while the good guys are outside politics. Is that true?
When that qualification happens to be, if you take us back 6 years, he would have been the best of us.
Yeah, no. Don't let me call you Kempi again.
He was seen as the best. He was anything but Goodluck Jonathan. I'm not trying to play politics here because.
But again, it looks
you
like
understand? I'm here to try to be objective. It was
I thought so myself initially, but now you've just gone back 6 years back, and you say
so. When Liborous says the worst of us, he was the best of us, really. Lai Mohammed was seen as a saint because he gave us the fights of our life. I remember I was in the studio with him a couple of times.
Sorry, I'm not going to cut it short. The question then was, when Buhari was presented as a candidate, did anybody bother to ask, you say this man will fight corruption, where has he ever delivered a seminar, a paper on how to fight corruption? So I can't brand it.
No, but
where has he ever delivered?
But the truth about
let's allow Ken.
No, but the truth about it was that nobody was going to question Buhari, because at that point in time, like I said, anything but Goodluck Jonathan.
So he wasn't the best of
the fact that Buhari had presented himself, if you realize something, Buhari has been the only president of this country that has actually sought that office. If you look at the history of this country, that has actually desired to become a president. Goodluck did not desire to become a president. Yar'Adua did not desire to become a president. They were all carried into the presidency. Even Obasanjo did not want to be president. 2 times he became president.
How do you know a man?
He did not want to become president.
How do you know a man who actually decided to become president?
Because he had the ambition. He contested in 2003.
So
he contested again in 2007. He contested in 2011.
It would mean that
you get it. For Obasanjo had just been released from prison. Yes, there was a form of preparation, and he took his time. And if I get you right, if you allow me land,
I'll let you land. But if there was preparation towards that leadership position, then why are we saying that he hasn't actually done well?
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's why we should call.
There was no preparation.
No, there was. If there was not. He tried in 2011 to get ACN.
I disagree.
ACN and he parted ways. He realized that in 2015, if he didn't get ACN, he wouldn't become the president of Nigeria. Buhari threw caution to the wind. Those he would normally not even go to, he went to them. Let's call it spade. Buhari prepared for this job. You can't say he didn't prepare for this job. The only thing you will say is that we didn't know that Buhari did not have the capacity. If you say that, I'll agree.
No,
is there any president you will tell me sought this office like Buhari? No other person has sought this office like Buhari.
Seeking office and preparing for the office.
When you seek, the way you seek.
Let's allow Austyn.
Yes.
I like it. Buhari is someone that has always wanted to be president.
That's the difference.
I agree with you.
He's
preparing for an office and seeking for an office are two different things.
He's fought the battles. He's lost a couple of elections.
But was
finally won.
Yes.
Now that he's won, we're now looking at his capacity. which are two different things. You know, so he sought the job, and now the question
But
is,
was not prepared for the job.
well, I think he was prepared, but I mean,
prepared.
not the argument should be yes.
I will
You know,
allow you.
I think
What you
yes.
say is that he
You
was
know, I think the
what
argument.
you can say is that he was
Yes.
overwhelmed.
No,
Don't say he was not prepared. He
yes.
was prepared.
Definitely. I
Yes.
think the argument now should now be, was his preparation
Enough.
Enough.
Exactly.
What you should say.
prepared.
No, he was prepared.
No, of course he was.
Allow us in
No,
line.
hold on.
Yeah,
See,
I will
if
tell you why
I write YN,
Yes.
one,
You read.
I read, I
Yes,
fail.
I fail.
I
You
write the
read
second
again.
time, I fail.
Yeah.
I write the third one, write
How
the
do you
fourth, then
know
I
the
write
man
the
was
fifth
reading
one.
for it?
I can't pass. I now pass. You tell me that what? That I did not prepare for
No, he
YN?
prepared.
Of course I prepared.
No, he prepared. What
Of
you
course,
say is
of
that how
course.
was
If you
know how
now wrote the
Yes.
fifth one,
now wrote
you
the
now
fifth-
wrote the fifth one. Somebody wrote the fifth one for you. and you
No, nobody
were
wrote.
prepared.
No, are you saying that somebody campaigned for Buhari? Of course, no.
Yes.
Who campaigned for him?
You.
No, they were not coached.
No, who
were
campaigned for
They were
Buhari?
written for.
No, he wasn't reading
Will
for
you
the
allow
coach.
me quickly?
Okay, go ahead.
I agree with you that all of the head of state president we've had, none of them, from Shehu Shagari, he wanted to be senator in the First Republic.
Yes.
He was made.
So Abdul Salami.
Even Murtala Mohammed
Mohammed.
was at home just
Yes.
listening to our BBC Hausa service when they called him and said, "Come and be." All of them. Buhari wanted to be president because we know what you become. Coup brought him, and then subsequently, oh, Nigeria is not working fine. I want to be president. Nobody asked for, oh, look, this man, they say you can fight corruption. Where has he ever delivered a seminar before on how to fight corruption?
No, they looked at his antecedents in
Wait now.
1984.
Antecedent or Idiagbon's antecedent. That's what I'm saying.
They
You're
look at
looking
the
at
antecedents in
Idiagbon's
1984.
antecedent, and you.
No, but the box stopped at his table. He was
Wait,
the.
let me finish. Let
Yeah.
me finish. And so he came for the pleasure of that power. He came, he sought the office. He didn't get it. He cried at a point. He said he wasn't going for it again. Some persons felt the only way we can get at this presidency is if we use this man who has consistently been seeking for it.
Yeah, that's what I said.
And so they wrote for him.
So you think
They wrote-
he was used?
Yes. So they presented him, the same people that criticized him, that called him a bigot, called him all sort of name, now said, no, he's a born again now. They presented his face to us. And then the rest of us, the docile rest of us, didn't bother to ask questions. Like Ken said, we are now, it was, oh, Goodluck Jonathan is the enemy. Anybody but Goodluck Jonathan. And so that person, whether the person is prepared or not, we even said, even if it's a tissue paper, bring it.
We'll come to you.
So that's not preparation.
We'll come to you.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
Toilet paper.
Just a minute.
Are you saying that it's very easy to sell a bad product?
Yes, in Nigeria.
I don't think so.
Very
No,
this
but
Nigeria.
Buhari sell us at that time.
Let's
See,
hear. Let's hear.
you know
Austyn.
why he sold?
Let's allow Austyn for a bit.
You know I challenge that this is your line of argument, right? If Buhari, right? I supported Buhari in 2015.
Begin to regret it now.
No, hold on. And I
I'm sure you
believe,
did. You supported
hold on.
Buhari.
And
No, I
I
didn't.
look.
Okay.
I have friends. I know a lot of people, right, that supported Buhari, but are regretting today. The point I'm trying to make is this: in 2015,
Yeah.
when Buhari came, we looked at Buhari as the man, irrespective of the people that were selling him. Hold on. Irrespective of the people that
He
were
was
selling
a symbol
him.
of the
He was a
change.
symbol
Because-
of something.
because those
Yes.
people-
Hold on. No,
those
they didn't.
people-
No, they did not
You're
sell.
looking at
No, they did not sell. No, they did not sell him. No.
Why didn't you support him in
Hold
2017?
on. Why did
you support him in
Hold
2011?
on. I have always supported Buhari. I can tell.
The people,
I have always.
those your friends,
Hold on.
why didn't they support him
They
in
have always
2011?
supported him. It was
Would
just.
have,
be-
and he
What I'm
didn't
just
make it.
no, hold on.
No,
hold
let's
on.
get
What I'm
Austyn's
just trying to say
argument.
is right. Buhari has always represented something from the word go. Anti-corruption chief. He's always been.
But that has been.
But that has been busted today.
Yeah.
But he had that meat, and that's the meat that he's carried.
But you know, Austyn, my worry here is.
You were told.
No, hold on.
No, I wasn't
my
told.
My worry here is Buhari. The picture we had of Buhari, even that cool picture of 1985.
Yeah.
Even after Dongoyaro came, Abacha came, and eventually Babangida gave that speech. you could see that Babangida danced around the whole thing. It was his high-handedness, it was his lack of cooperation. There was one thing Babangida didn't say. He didn't accuse him of corruption.
Yep.
But let me ask
You
you,
understand? And it is interesting now. It is interesting now. That the same Babangida now says that his government was a saint
Let me
compared
bring this.
to Buhari's.
Ken, I'll start with this with you. Is the problem of Nigeria Buhari?
The problem of Nigeria is why it's not Buhari, but why it's Buhari is because Buhari has been personified as Mr. Anti-Corruption, and Buhari has been personified as one who was going to come in to stabilize the country, because as far as we were concerned, the country was drifting. But for those of us who were in the PDP and were supporting Goodluck Jonathan, we knew that we could see all these pitfalls, but our voices were drowned at a particular point in time. We had a lot of people who were speaking for us, we had a lot of garbage, we were not able to present the picture of what we were seeing. The media does a lot.
Very arrogant.
The media does a lot, and that was the advantage the APC came with. So if you say Buhari is the problem, I'll disagree. But where Buhari is the problem is, how can you be a head of a government? The head of service, Eyeta Ayo, is facing a corruption trial. Babachi Lawa, your secretary of government, is facing corruption trial. Magu, your anti-corruption sir, is alleged to have been removed because of corruption.
Isn't that indicative of a man who avoids corruption, that he's not covering?
You will say he avoids corruption, but if they perceived him as that man who had that no nonsense, especially for Babachi Lawal, who came with him all the way from AP to ANPP to CPC, and was almost like more than his chief of staff, and now became the secretary to government. Babachi Lawal was like his chief of staff. So somebody that would have seen Buhari and knew the kind of person Buhari was, to have come up with that kind of scandal, that left a lot to be desired from his government. My problem here was that he allowed 3 committees to be set up before Babachi Lawal was eventually eased out. If the Vice President Oshibazo's committee did not come out with that report, maybe he would have still left Babachi Lawal. But the pressure from Nigerians was what sent Babachi Lawal packing, not because he was trying to clean the audience table. Now look at the NDDC, for example. He has been there has been no board for 2 years. There has been no story that has not been told. The forensic audit has been done quite all right now. We have been assured that what we're waiting for was the forensic audit. There is still no board in place. Yes, a few changes might have been made. The commission headquarters was inaugurated. They just inaugurated 64 or 66,000 units for the special protection unit. But what we are saying is that these things that you keep saying, would you have run the Northeast Development Commission without a board, the way he's running NDDC without a board? There is so much imbalance in what is going on in the Buhari government, and he gives him cause for worry, because he's on the home stretch. His next he has only one more Oktoberfest speech to make in 2022. And he must realize that he's going home because the constitution is not going to change. So when is he going to repair all this? He says he's going to lift 100 million people out of poverty, when you have not lifted even 500,000 people. His program that he has always touted himself. Do you understand?
You have pushed more million into poverty.
He has pushing more people into poverty. So he's not facing realities. If only Buhari can be made to face realities. I like Buhari very much. I must tell you the truth. As a child, I drew Buhari as a head of state. I've had this passion for him. I've never met him. He's the only head of state I've never seen one-on-one in my life.
You are an artist.
Yes, I drew Buhari perfectly. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? And I remember when Babangida
with his beret.
With his beret, and I just loved the man. I liked that his chin. I just looked at him. I said, look.
Can you still do that now?
I mean, I don't know if I can join him now with what is going on in Nigeria, but I have to be shaking. Do you understand where I'm coming from? I don't know if that same passion I had, I will still have that same passion. But as an individual, I like him. But with what he has done and with what is happening, those around him are not telling him the truth.
Let me come.
History will be very harsh on Buhari.
I love to chip in. I love to chip in. In line with what Ken, what Ken P has been saying. You see.
But you're not an artist. You didn't.
No.
Have a sketch of.
No, of course.
Okay,
of
good.
course. But you see, Buhari's biggest problem, and I'll say this, are the people around him. That's the truth. Buhari's biggest problem are the people around him that are probably not.
What was Goodluck Jonathan's biggest problem?
The people around him as well.
So
the people, because if you look, if you're a leader and you surround yourself see, if you may be a dumb, right? But if you surround yourself with very smart people, you naturally become smart. Because they will tell you the smart things. They will point you towards the right things and cool. So the people that are the problem of this country, right, are the people that are surrounding the president.
You can't give what you don't have.
61 years down, do you think there are people, certain persons or group of persons holding Nigeria down?
You see, for me, look, I dislike the political class. I've always disliked politicians. A lot of them are my friends, because they're very crafty people and they're very selfish. They only think about themselves and their self-interest. Especially Nigerian politicians. Nigerian politicians, are crooks. Yes, they are crooks. Majority of them, not all of them, but particularly the ones we have in government today are disastrous. Because I don't understand why they will be in office today with all the influences and the powers that they have, and they have refused to use it positively to move this country forward. It is just a shame. So the politicians are the biggest problems. And we as the people, by not even, being more aggressive, in denying them and holding them accountable for their actions, are even complicit in the problem.
So we're winding down gradually. Let me bring this to Liborous, because he from where he left off, he said, "We the people." I wanted to react, but again, first to also weigh in on this. It's been so agreed by all three of you that Buhari isn't the problem of Nigeria.
Yeah.
So perhaps maybe we start looking at the problem or the people. Are the people also some sort of problems
in as far as the non-performance of this administration is concerned? 50% Buhari is the problem.
The box stops at the table.
50% he shares the problem. Buhari has a fantastic vice president, but they've left the man docile. When the vice president acted in his stead, we saw the crisis in Southeast, and the crisis was brewing at that time, and then the crisis in the Niger Delta. The man marched on the street of Yenegua, that even the people said, even when our son was president, we didn't see him this close. He went to Were, went to Port Harcourt, had that banter with Wiki. Even the opposition at that time agreed that, they were relatively calm. And you also saw the top decisions he took with the DSS, Onogen's confirmation and all of those things. And at the end of the day, it was to the credit of the government. But Buhari came. The moment he came, he started dissolving, he started breaking down, he started calling names, and that reversed all the little gains that the government, this administration made. So if you tell me that, as far as administration is concerned, it's not the problem, but it's the people around him. The people around him, who appointed them? You can't give what you don't have.
So mentioning the vice president, Professor Shibajo, are you saying that there are also some few good people that he should have?
There are people who are around the president today whose advice are not reckoned with, who, if are allowed to actually work, the stories will change. How
does it work? How come? You appoint people who are fantastic and great, and you don't get to listen to them.
Once told us,
Oshoma is not working right now.
look, Oshoma can be working, signing papers.
So you were going to say something about the former president.
Obasanjo once told his special advisors that you can advise me, it is left for me to take the advice. Obasanjo had a strong character, and he had a strong persona that if he wants to disgrace you, can disgrace you publicly. But at the end of the day, whether it was for selfish reasons or not, even though at that time we said Obasanjo's administration was bad, but in retrospect, when you now begin to, as disastrous as Goodluck Jonathan was, you now begin to look at Goodluck Jonathan and you say, oh, look, we had it better than Buhari. That means this one is a monumental failure. And then why it became failure is the fact that we said Goodluck Jonathan's administration was bad. Some persons in ACN looked for Buhari, rebranded him, repackaged him, and then told the rest of us, like my brother Austyn, and that look, this man is a born again. Remember those things he did. So now he will come and do those things again. He will change Nigeria to El Dorado. Nobody asked questions because they wanted power. And so at that point, the moment he got there, rather than remind him consistently of those things he promised, they started making excuses for him, and Buhari started benchmarking himself against the failures of PDP. If you tell them you don't have ministers in 6 months, he said, no, after all, Goodluck Jonathan stayed for 5 months without ministers. So they started benchmarking themselves against failure. How do you expect success from such a government? So what we need to do, for me, moving forward.
Yes, moving forward.
Moving forward, I think the government still has some leverage. What they can do, you still have some good persons within. I just mentioned the vice president. We say he doesn't have capacity, but we all believe that his vice has the capacity. We have seen him. We've seen him in Lagos. We've seen him even act. Why do you think since then they no longer give him acting president? Even when the president is going on medical checkup, they'll say he's going for walking visits. Because they don't want the man to act, and yet they believe that they are working. So allow those people with capacity to sit down and take decisions, because what people will remember are the activities of these dying days in office. People can easily forget the locust 6 years, but we remember these last days if you change the tide. Once you allow those people to begin to take decisions, people are praising him for the railway.
Let me bring in.
We can also praise you for insecurity.
Already, politicians like yourself and close, keen watchers like Liborous and journalists like Austyn, they're already watching, talking about 2023.
Yeah.
And you also reminded Africans and Nigeria that President Buhari he's got just one more Independence Day speech to make before a new administration comes. So what are those things that Nigerians should be looking out for? Looking at what Nigeria is at the moment, at 61 years, is it possible to have a reversal of trends in 2023?
It's possible if we actually get it right. It's looking inwards. For me, I'm happy my party has seen it all. We thought we were going to rule for 60 years, and now we're faced with the reality of the fact that
your party
that boast eventually.
You actually thought
we actually had to eat. We actually ate the humble pie.
Okay,
but looking inside,
did you actually think that a party in Africa?
The APC has said that they're going to rule again.
Coming again.
They've come the same way.
Coming again is
even the ANC.
Coming again,
they can rule for.
I was almost going to say the same thing of the ANC.
Yeah.
The ANC is in turmoil at the moment in South Africa.
Certainly. But you're looking at it and thinking of in 2023 in line. I believe before 2023, which is just like a couple of months away, the government here can still do a lot to salvage itself. But would they agree to salvage themselves? I'll take an example. The president just impugned on integrity of the entire Senate and the entire House of Representatives, where you say a member of the National Assembly is a sponsor for terrorists, and you don't name that member. At least within now, when you name that member, every member of the Senate and every member of the House of Rep is seen as a terrorist sponsor because you don't know who that person is. I'm just giving an example of the mistake he makes. His speechwriters could have expunged that. At a time when they would name the person or would have arrested the person, then you can now shame, name and shame. They say they don't want to name and shame. That is what Additional told us in New York. And exactly the same thing is what he has done now. What I'm trying to point out here is, it's as if we are acting a home video. Because if you listen to today's broadcast, it was more a home video. The president was not facing realities. It was like saying we're back to the reality.
I'll keep that question for Liborous. Can't Nigeria have name and prosecute? What's this name and shame? But I'll come to you. Tell us, 2023 is coming. How can Nigeria, is it possible for Nigeria to, activate, this change that would generally, start to rewrite some of these wrongs that Nigerians across the divide are talking about?
You see, the whole process has started. The two main political parties have started the process that will lead to the emergence of two presidential candidates, one from the left and of course one from the right. If we get it right, if they sincerely want us to, to turn the tide, if they get it right by presenting, but we know Nigeria is basically a two-party state. Some people argue today that it's actually, tilting towards a one-party state. But if these two political parties present the kinds of people that have been advocating for, people that can create jobs, not your traditional politicians, people that understand that we have a problem that needs to be solved, people that understand that even before they get elected, when they become a major candidate, they begin the process of trying to, find ways and look for people that can, help, turn the tide and fix the country. So the solution to the problem actually starts now, because if we don't get it right, if we elect the same sets of people again in 2023, Nigeria will reverse back another 20, 30 years. So this is why, everyone should take part, make noise, disturb. I like the fact that, that the PDP has technically, I hope it happens, has technically, has said their presidential candidate will come from the South. I like that. That helps douse the agitations from the Southwest and the Southeast. And if, God willing, that candidate from the PDP is somebody that, that's a kind of hybrid, either from the South, somebody with an Igbo name or Igbo connotation, that Igbos can relate to. That helps douse the agitations, the hyper agitations, and because it is only when you have peace. No, hold on, because it's only when you have PDP. Because it's only hold on. I'm saying PDP, and I hope the APC does the same. I'm saying this because the only way you can grow, the only way you can do business is when there is peace. Look at IPOD. They'll come up tomorrow and say, look, everybody stay at home. And if you stay at home, there's no productivity. People are not going to come out.
Austyn, do you realize that on Shami market doesn't open on Mondays and Tuesdays?
Naturally, or because of IPOD?
Because of IPOD.
That is what I'm saying.
It's been going on, and people don't even know, because those of us that are I'm from Delta, I do business in Delta. When we want to buy things, we wait till Wednesday to get things. That they're devising Sundays. Mondays and Tuesdays, you cannot do any business.
Okay.
And that is the biggest market in West Africa. The president is not ready to negotiate with this group of people.
No, hold on.
He says it in his school speech. He calls
So we're going back to the problem. We're talking about solutions now.
I'm talking about this.
I'm saying.
I'm talking about the solution now. So you need to find ways to calm the Southeast. If you calm, because there's no development, there's no growth. People don't make money when there's chaos.
Let me bring in Liborous. And Liborous, as you close, but quickly, I want you to weigh in on that talk about naming and shaming that is almost like a cliche, and one wonders what ever happened to the word name and prosecute.
Yeah, it's the naming and shaming that is the naming and prosecute that people are saying, look, prosecution will shame these people. But how do you prosecute people? Like here, we are very nepotistic. So how do you prosecute people who finance, some of them even financed your election, they bankrolled it. They are members of your party. If you remember, when this government came on board, we were happy that, yes, a friend of the president returned 100 million naira to Jafar Risa to EFCC, and then we all, said, the body language was working. So one would have really, and that's why I said the judiciary, the anti-corruption agencies, we still wait for body language and petitions to investigate. We are still, everybody now looks up to EFCC because it seems as if it's the only agency that is working. Nigerian police, we've forgotten that the Nigerian police still have prosecutorial powers.
Yeah.
Nobody looks at them any longer. You know, so, and you have Nigerian intelligence agencies, you still have, you know, intelligence units in the various security outfits. You still hear this country, you hear that vessels, you know, carrying arms, you know, we cross other countries, but they'll be tracked in Nigeria. But yet, that same country, we can't track Okada riders that are kidnapping people from schools. So it means that the powers that be, or the political class, the political elite, do not want to prosecute those involved. And the only way they would not want to prosecute them is because they'll either be part of them or they are associated with them. So that's where the people, it is not the political elite now. Ken talked about it is the voice of the people that are actually had allowed that, had compelled the government now to lift the ban on suspension, and then also that led to the exit of Babache Lawa, and then also that we eventually see to the electronic transmission of results in Nigeria. So that means we, the people, should be part of this solution. We should drive the solution. It is our voices, the media, it's our voices that, you know, will resonate irrespective of the region, irrespective of the section of the country. That look, we all need these good things. People are dying everywhere. You see, and the funniest part of it is that we kill ourselves for power. If you kill people you want to serve, who will now remain for you to serve? So that's why everybody needs to ensure that our voices are high and that they are heard. And whoever is involved, this idea of my teeth is better than your teeth, we should forget about it.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. For the men that have given us directions, Liborous, Austyn, and Ken, we'll take a moment before we close, and we'll be back shortly. Thank you. And of course, finally, I said Nigerians are divided whether to celebrate or not, but I love cakes. And I love cakes. Now you see.
That's why Austyn was very optimistic.
I'm always an optimist.
Austyn is a great African who also believes that people must drink to every celebration. We have Liborous, and of course Ken, who is our politician here in the house. Are you contesting?
Do you remember that Bongo Secret song?
Are you
No, the question you should be asking Ken.
Why is it Ken P? I said
I'm contesting for the House of Reps.
Contesting
for the House of Reps.
When he was drawing Buhari.
I got Kempi when I was in university.
I think we can stand, even if we can't, we don't have an elevated stool. We can stand. This is Nigeria at 61.
You remember that Bongo Secret song? Nigeria is 25. Yeah, the date song. Arise, salute the nation.
So,
but I don't know if we can sing that anymore. No, 25 was 61 now.
I will imagine Ken tomorrow in APC.
No. I'm not like those ones that sing PDP in the
so
morning
we're
and
all
APC at night.
and wish Nigeria well. To everyone watching across the continent, this is wishing Nigeria a happy independence.
Happy independence, Nigeria.
Happy independence, Nigeria.
Woo! And we do hope that in the days to come, Ken, who is a politician here, once he gets in, he's going to make a difference.
Ken P.
By his grace. when I get to the green chamber.
So many thanks, Liborous Oshoma, a lawyer, and of course,
I
Ken.
will remind him of
Ken,
Yes,
a
yes.
politician, a member of the opposition PDP, and my colleague, Austyn Ogannah, who's a publisher of the Will newspapers. From all of us here on News Center, from a location somewhere in Lagos, Nigeria, it's been really, really windy and, of course, a rainy day. We say happy independence and bye-bye.